Hi, it's Melanie Goodhue from Pulse Wealth Management. Once again, I have the pleasure of being joined by Brittany Singh. She is a wills and real estate lawyer. Welcome, Brittany.
Hi, Melanie. Hi, everyone.
Hi. So if you've missed our previous two videos, definitely go check them out. We talk about wills, why they're important, what are they, why they're important for absolutely anybody, and what the cost is. And then we did a similar thing for powers of attorney. What are they? What can happen if you don't have one and you're incapacitated? And today we are going to be talking about real estate law. So we're going to cover off some common questions that Brittany answers for buyers and sellers. We're going to talk about some tips she's got for buyers when they're looking for a home, and also some tips for sellers when they are looking to sell their home. So Brittany, take it away.
Hi, everyone. So I love real estate and real estate law. For the tips with the buyers and sellers, we'll start there. For buyers, we do get a lot of first-time home buyers, and if you've never been through the process, obviously you have a lot of questions. For me, one tip is to work with a great team, a mortgage broker, a real estate agent. That's on your side. That's really good. They can answer a lot of your questions and guide you on the right path. Um, for my end, it's important to have a lot of your information ready to go because a lot of the times with the closings, we get the mortgage instructions very close to the actual closing date, very common in real estate law. So if you have all of your documents, IDs, if you have an insurance broker, make sure let them know that you're closing ahead of time so that they can be ready to get that insurance policy for us. Let us know your marital status. So are you married? Are you also, if you're a first-time home buyer, you get a rebate for the land transfer tax. So that's also important to let your real estate lawyer know. Other than that, I think that, it's important to shop around a bit, like for the properties, like you can go to a bunch of showings, see what's out there, and also make sure to ask questions. As a first-time home buyer, you may have a lot of questions, and we won't know what questions you have until you ask us. And on the seller side, I would say that there's a lot of documents that we also need as your lawyer for closing for selling. The vacant unit tax declaration for the city of Ottawa and also for the city of Toronto, it's mandatory. So make sure you have that filed. Make sure your property taxes are up to date. You can get in touch with your utilities companies, let them know that you're closing, when your closing date is, so they know that to cancel your account for then. It's important to also have your fire property insurance in place until the day of closing and maybe not cancel it sometimes until it has closed, especially in cases where there's an extension happening because you have to make sure that your property is insured even if the closing date is extended. So
Mhm.
those are some quick tips for
Those
buyers and
are really
sellers.
good tips. Yeah, especially on the on the seller's side, right? There's a lot of goodies in there that I think a lot of people just wouldn't know otherwise. So thank you.
You're
What are
welcome.
some common questions that you get from buyers and sellers?
Um, for buyers, I think some common questions are obviously about the first time home buyer rebate. So they want to know if they can apply for it or not. If you're buying with somebody who's not a first time home buyer, you don't get the full like portion of it. So sometimes we get questions about that. Kind of leading into something else we'll cover, but sometimes I get questions about what's the difference between joint tenants and tenants in common. So I can quickly go over that.
Sure.
Yeah, so that's the way that you take title, so ownership on the deed. So for joint tenants, it would say that on your deed, and then it's not a percentage ownership, but what it means is that you own the property equally, and then if someone passes away, you have the right of survivorship, and that just means that the property will flow to the other person that is joint tenants with you.
And that's
So
the most common setup, right?
yeah, that's the most
Yeah.
common. And it's very, very good, like from an estate planning point of
Yeah.
view, it just passes. You don't have to go through a will and wait for probate to finish.
Yes.
So, And then, oh, and what's interesting about the joint tenants that I learned is that you can have more than just one joint tenants. Like you can have a couple of people be joint tenants with you on
Mhm.
title.
Yeah.
And then tenants in common is you get to break down the percentages like to the percent. And um, so that's useful, I guess, if some people gave a down payment and the other person didn't. And for that, your share of the property would pass through your estate if something happened to you. So it would be recommended that you have a will.
Yeah,
So
for
that
sure. Otherwise, if you were to pass away and let's say you were tenants in common and you had 50% share on your death was to be dispersed, if you don't have a will, then where is that gonna go? It'll have to be, dealt with intestate and go through the courts, and so many friends and family will come out of the woodworks, especially when there's no will. Whereas if you have that will that says, hey, this 50% of the house that's mine to pass on, it doesn't go to the other owner, it's mine, will go to who you actually wanted to go to. So that's really, really important. Great. Do you have any other common questions, or have we kind of covered them all?
Um, I think like for when people are getting a mortgage, we get a lot of questions too at our end about the what payments are they having, when are they coming out, the percentages, because we do get the final documents and we're told how to register the mortgage on title. So we get a lot of questions about that. And we do sometimes say you should speak to your broker, but we can like provide the documents and go over the basics with the client, which is helpful for them when they're anxious about the closing and the mortgage payments starting.
Yeah, for sure. And I can imagine that another question that people would ask you is, what is title insurance?
Yes, that's a great one. Title insurance on every mortgage, and so any purchase and any refinance, we must get title insurance for the client, and it's an insurance policy that protects the client from any kind of title defect. So for
Mhm.
fraud, for example, there was two cases last year in Toronto that was on the news where homes were being sold when the owners were away, and then they came back to these people that were committing fraud taking ownership and actually being able to sell the property somehow.
Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't hear about that. Wow.
No, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so and now our own like requirements have really toughened up with third party ID verification and things like that. But your title insurance policy that you get would help protect you, would cover the cost of your home, ensure that value for
Right.
that
Yeah.
fraud happening.
So it's
Yeah.
literally an insurance policy,
It
right?
is an insurance policy,
Yeah.
yeah,
To
for title.
protect
And
your
it
home.
also
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And it's good too, like if the seller didn't pay their property taxes, or if it's a
Mm,
condo, they didn't pay their condo arrears and they're refusing to pay it after
right.
closing, you can claim through title insurance. So it's a very good policy to have, and it runs with your ownership of the property. So you pay one time at closing, and then you'll have the policy as long as you own the property. So it's very
That's
good.
perfect. Great. Well, thank you so much. Have we covered off all the questions, kind of common questions you can think of that you get asked?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, excellent. Well, everyone, I hope that you found this informative. I'm going to throw Brittany's information in the description or comments below. That way, if you have any questions for her around real estate law, or you're thinking of buying and selling and you need a lawyer to do it, she's your gal. Feel free to reach out for her. Brittany, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Melanie.
My pleasure. Okay, we'll talk to you soon.